Thing of it is, you got to think about it. We sitting here talking about it, right? He's a backup quarterback. He's sitting there, he's learning, he's doing whatever the case may be. He's sitting there, he ain't saying nothing, he's learning. The narrative that we got to go week by week to say he's either ready or not ready is crazy. It's like, yo, at the end of the day, he's the backup quarterback supporting Dylan Gabriel, learning the game plan, and doing it at a high level.
Sanders doesn't need a spotlight to shine. It finds him automatically. He doesn't need headlines to become a story. The world builds one the moment his name enters a conversation. And that right there is exactly what terrifies the Cleveland Browns. Because this isn't just about talent. It isn't about development. It isn't even about football. This is about power, control, ego, and a franchise that has spent decades running from the one thing that could save them. A quarterback unafraid to rise. From the outside, the situation looks simple. Is a rookie quarterback learning behind a veteran? He's watching film, studying the system, understanding the rhythm of the NFL. That's the job. That's the process. That's the cycle every young quarterback goes through before the moment arrives. But Cleveland refuses to let that story breathe. They twist it. They bend it. They reconstruct it every single week like they're rewriting a TV script instead of developing a real player. Because in their eyes, the danger isn't that might fail. The danger is that he might succeed, and succeed too quickly. This is where the real story begins. Every NFL city has opinions. Every fan base has arguments. Every team deals with pressure. But Cleveland isn't just emotional. They are unpredictable in ways the league still can't fully explain. This is a city where a quarterback can go from savior to scapegoat in the same quarter. A city where hope is a currency spent too fast and patience is something people talk about but never practice. And into this environment walks Sanders, a quarterback with charisma, youth, swagger, work ethic, and a spotlight even he didn't ask for. He didn't demand attention. He didn't chase headlines. He didn't force his name into debates. But the city did it for him. Every loss, they chant his name. Every win, they forget he exists. Every rumor, they inflate it. Every silence, they fill it with something louder. This is normal everywhere else. But in Cleveland, it becomes chaos. And chaos in Cleveland becomes fear. The front office sees what fans refuse to admit out loud. If rises too quickly, if he steals the room, if the players gravitate toward him, if the media starts orbiting him, if the fan base clings to him, the control shifts, not to him, but away from them. And if there is one thing the Browns cannot handle, it's losing control of their own narrative. Because for years, this franchise has protected the image of stability even when the foundation beneath them was cracking like thin ice. They've built an identity around the idea that everything is under control, that every move is calculated, that every season is part of some master plan. They tell fans the plan is working. They tell media the process is unfolding. And they tell themselves that they're the ones steering the future with confidence and clarity. But the reality, it's a fragile illusion wrapped in optimism and press conferences. Behind closed doors, the cracks run deep. The fear is louder than the hope. And every time a player walks through those doors with star potential, it's like dropping a glass of cold truth on a table already shaking. The franchise wants greatness, but only greatness they can supervise, manage, contain, so the moment someone arrives who might rewrite that future faster than they can control, someone who has the talent to flip the script overnight. The panic starts to seep through the walls, quiet at first, then louder, then undeniable. Because what scares? Cleveland isn't failure. They're used to that. What scares them is losing the narrative, losing the power, losing the ability to decide who becomes the face of the franchise and who gets buried behind excuses and needs more development speeches. And Sanders? He's everything they can't control. He's young, he's magnetic, he's confident. He carries attention with him the way other quarterbacks carry a playbook. Wherever he goes, the cameras follow, the fans react, the story reshapes. He has the influence of a rising star before ever becoming a starter. And That's exactly what Cleveland fears. Because if succeeds too quickly, the franchise loses their oldest trick, the ability to blame the quarterback. For decades, the Browns have survived criticism by rotating QBs like spare parts. When things go wrong, blame the guy under center. When the season falls apart, point to the inexperience, point to the mistakes, point to the development process. It buys time, it buys patience. It buys the illusion that everything else is fine. But he ruins that strategy. You can't blame a kid who studies film at dawn. You can't blame someone players already respect. You can't blame someone fans already believe in. You can't blame someone the media has already placed under a national spotlight. If he becomes the starter and succeeds, all the attention goes to him. If he becomes the starter and fails, all the blame shifts to the franchise. And that's the one thing Cleveland cannot handle, Dot. So instead of leaning into his potential, they suppress it. Instead of preparing him, they isolate him. Instead of letting him grow, they manage him like a PR risk. They keep him behind glass, stored away, waiting, watching, but never stepping into the light. They call it development, but everyone can see the truth. This isn't. Caution, Dot, this is fear. The kind of fear that exposes a franchise more than any loss ever could. They didn't need press conferences or leak quotes. They didn't need insider information or private sources. They didn't even need rumors to connect the dots. Anyone paying attention, truly paying attention, could sense the tension without being told. There was something shifting behind the scenes, something unspoken, something uneasy, something that didn't match the polished public script the Browns were trying to sell. The energy wasn't normal. It wasn't the usual quarterback competition noise or training camp hype. It was heavier, thicker, like the air before a storm. Players felt it first. They always do. The locker room tone changes before any headline does. The way guys move, the way they talk, the way they look at each other when the cameras aren't rolling. There's a quiet honesty inside a team that no press release can erase. And lately, that honesty has been screaming. Coaches walking tighter. Veterans exchanging looks that say more than words ever could. Young players whispering in corners because they don't want their curiosity mistaken for disloyalty. Everyone senses the shift, but no one names it out loud. Because naming it would make it real. Even the fans feel it. They might not know the details, but they feel the fracture, that gap between what the organization says and what the reality looks like. They can hear it in Stefanski's clipped answers. They can feel it in the way the Browns avoid certain questions. They can see it in the way it's kept just close enough to tease hope, but far enough to avoid threatening the status quo. There's a tension that sits between the franchise and its future. A tension that grows every time makes a perfect throw in practice. A tension that deepens every time. Veteran praises his work ethic, Dot. A tension that tightens every time another reporter hints that the kid is special, because special is dangerous in Cleveland. Special threatens the old system. Special threatens the established order. Special threatens the men who built their careers on controlling the story. Not letting it write itself, Dot, so the Browns smile for the cameras while privately guarding their insecurities like state secrets. They preach patience while feeling the clock tick louder every day. They promote stability even though the foundation beneath them is shaken. That's why no one needed leaks, Dot. No one needed anonymous sources or whispered rumors that the truth was already in the air. Tick. Undeniable, impossible to ignore. Dot, something inside the Browns building is shifting. And everyone, from the locker room to the fan base, can feel it. Even if no one is allowed to say it. Because you cannot hide energy. You cannot hide leadership. You cannot hide talent. And you absolutely cannot hide a star. You can bury him on the depth chart. You can limit his snaps. You can restrict his reps. You can leak your little. He's not ready yet. Lines to the media. You're not hiding a quarterback. You're hiding from reality, Dot. And that is exactly what the Browns have been doing. Sanders is not the problem. He is the mirror. He reflects everything the organization is afraid to face. And that is why this story has become bigger than anyone expected. Because for the first time in years, Cleveland has a quarterback, even as a backup, with the presence, the charisma, and The rising influence to become the face of the franchise without even touching the field. That's power. And power makes insecure organizations tremble. Just look at the media reaction. 1 week, analysts call him the future dot. The next week, they call him overrated. Then he's not developing fast enough. Then he's moving too quickly. Then he's a savior. Then he's a threat. Then he's invisible dot. It's emotional whiplash. And the craziest part, he hasn't even played yet. His entire story in Cleveland is being told without him. That's the craziest part. He hasn't demanded anything. He hasn't complained. He hasn't started drama. He hasn't tried to take anyone's job. He's simply showing up, learning, absorbing, doing exactly what every rookie quarterback in the NFL does. Yet, somehow, a full-blown saga has been written around him. A narrative stitched together from assumptions, fear, projections, and decades of desperation, stuffed into one young player who hasn't even spoken much publicly in Cleveland. Doesn't get to define himself. Others define him for him.